Welcome, friend. Tonight we walk a quiet path together. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to accomplish. The day has ended, and the night has opened its arms to hold you. Let your body sink into the softness beneath you, feeling the weight of your limb. Notice how the breath moves through you, gentle and constant, like waves against distant shores. You are safe here, you are whole here, and in this moment, peace is not something you must find. It is already within you. It has always been there, waiting beneath the noise, beneath the doing, beneath the worry. Tonight we will uncover it together, slowly, gently, like brushing dust from an ancient stone. Outside your window, the world continues its turning. But here, in this space, time softens. The hurry fades. The obligations dissolve. And what remains is simply this: your breath, your body, your listening heart. Imagine, if you will, a temple nestled deep in the mountains, far from the roads. The air is cool and carries the scent of pine and rain-soaked earth. Lanterns flicker softly along a stone path, their light warm and forgiving. In the distance, a bell rings once, then silence returns, deeper than before. You walk this path not to arrive anywhere, but simply to walk. Each step is its own completeness. Each breath is its own quiet answer. There is no destination, no hurry, no lack, only the unfolding of now. And as you walk, you notice how the mind begins to settle, like silt drifting to the bottom of a still pond. Thoughts rise and fall, but you do not chase them. You simply watch them pass, like clouds crossing the open sky. This is the beginning of rest, not the absence of thought, but the gentle release of struggling with it. The Buddha once said that peace comes not from rearranging the world, but from rearranging our relationship to it. Tonight, we practice that rearranging. We let go of what we cannot hold. We accept what we cannot change. And we return, again and again, to the simplicity of breath. Inhale slowly. Feel the coolness of air entering your body. Exhale completely. Feel the warmth leaving, carrying tension with it. With each breath, you are lighter. With each breath, you are more yourself. Let us begin with a story, one that has been told for centuries in quiet temples and moonlit gardens. It is not a story that demands your attention, but one that invites your listening. Let it move through you like a song you've always known. The blind calligrapher in a village at the edge of a great forest. There lived a calligrapher who had lost his sight. His name was Takeshi, and in his youth, he had been celebrated for his brushwork. Nobles travelled from distant provinces to commission scrolls written in his hand. His characters were said to dance with life, each stroke balanced, each line a meditation. But when illness took his vision, the world assumed his art had ended. Visitors stopped coming. Patrons sent their regrets. And Takeshi was left alone in his small studio with only the smell of ink and memory. For many months, he did not lift his brush. He sat by the window listening to the rain, feeling the seasons change through the air. He grieved not for the fame, but for the act itself, the feeling of brush on paper, the flow of creation. One morning, his young nephew arrived, carrying rice and tea as he often did. The boy found his uncle sitting before a blank scroll, brush in hand, unmoving. "Uncle," the boy said gently, Why do you hold the brush if you cannot see?" Takeshi was quiet for a long time. Then he dipped the brush into ink and began to move his hand across the paper. The boy watched, unsure of what would emerge. He expected chaos, smudges, lines wandering without direction. But what appeared was something else entirely. The characters were imperfect, yes, some strokes heavier than intended, some lighter, but they held a presence, a weight, a kind of honesty the boy had never seen before. "Uncle," the boy whispered, "this is beautiful." Takeshi set down the brush and smiled faintly. "When I could see," he said, "I tried to make each stroke perfect. I controlled every angle, every pressure, every breath. I was always chasing an image in my mind, always comparing what I made to what I imagined it should be. But now I cannot see the paper. I cannot see the ink. I only feel the brush moving. And in that feeling there is no judgment, no comparison, only the act itself." The boy sat beside him, looking at the scroll again. "So you are free now?" he asked. "Perhaps," Takeshi said. "Or perhaps I am finally learning what freedom is." He paused, then added softly, "True mastery is not control, it is trust." The nephew stayed with him that day, and together they made tea and listened to the wind move through the trees. Neither spoke much, but both felt the presence of something peaceful settling between them. A few weeks later, word spread through the village about the blind calligrapher who had begun working again. People came not because his work was flawless, but because it carried something they recognized: the beauty of letting go. Each scroll he created was different, unrepeatable, alive in its imperfection. And those who received them felt seen in a way they had not expected. Because Takeshi's work no longer tried to impress. It simply existed, honest and whole. One evening, a monk from the nearby temple visited him. He had heard the stories and wanted to see for himself. Takeshi welcomed him and offered tea. The monk asked, "How do you know when a piece is finished if you cannot see it?" Takeshi smiled. "I know it is finished when I no longer feel the need to change it," he said. "When the brush stops, the work is complete. There is nothing more to add or take away." The monk nodded slowly. "This is the teaching of non-attachment," he said. "You have found the way." But Takeshi shook his head gently. "I do not think I have found anything," he replied. "I think I have simply stopped looking." The monk laughed, a quiet, warm sound, and the two men sat together in the fading light. Outside, the first stars began to appear, and the forest grew still. In that stillness, there was no success or failure, no sight or blindness, only the quiet presence of being. Takeshi lived many more years, creating scrolls that were treasured not for their perfection, but for their truth. And when he finally passed, his nephew continued the practice, learning that beauty is not found in control. It is found in the courage to let the brush move where it will. Breathe now. Let the story settle in your body like a stone sinking into deep water. You do not need to understand it fully. You do not need to hold it tightly. Simply let it rest within you. Takeshi's lesson is one we all must learn again and again, that peace does not come from perfection. It comes from releasing the need to be perfect. How much of your life is spent trying to control the outcome, trying to make things turn out exactly as you imagine? How much energy is lost in that endless adjusting, that constant measuring of yourself against an invisible standard. What if tonight you allowed yourself to be like Takeshi, unable to see the result, but trusting the movement anyway? Inhale slowly, hold for a moment, exhale completely. Feel how the breath does not need your permission. It does not ask if it is doing it right. It simply moves, natural and whole. This is the way of all things when we stop interfering. The heart beats without your instruction. The body heals without your supervision. And peace arises when you stop demanding it take a certain shape. Where in your life are you holding the brush too tightly? Where are you trying to see the outcome before it has even formed? Gently, without judgment, notice these places. And then, just for tonight, imagine setting down the need to control them. Imagine trusting that the brush knows its own way, that you, in your imperfection, are already enough. Let your shoulders soften, let your jaw release. There is nothing you need to fix in this moment, nothing you need to prove. You are here, breathing, alive, and that is the whole of it. In another part of the world, in another time, there was a monastery known for its silence. The monks who lived there spoke only when necessary, believing that words often obscured more than they revealed. They woke before dawn, meditated in the great hall, tended the gardens, and returned to stillness. Visitors came from far away to experience this silence, hoping it would bring them clarity. But most found it unbearable. Without conversation, without distraction, they were left alone with the noise of their own minds. And so they would leave after a day or two, unsettled, seeking relief elsewhere. But there was one visitor who stayed, the woman who could not stop thinking. Her name was Ayame, and she had traveled for many weeks to reach the monastery. She was a scholar, a woman of great intellect and accomplishment. She had read every philosophy, memorized every sutra, debated every master she could find. But despite all her knowledge, she could not sleep. Her mind moved constantly, analyzing, planning, rehearsing conversations, solving problems that did not yet exist. Even in moments of rest, her thoughts spiraled endlessly, and she felt as though she were drowning in her own cleverness. Someone had told her about the monastery of silence, and she thought perhaps there she might find relief. When she arrived, the abbot greeted her with a bow and led her to a small room overlooking the garden. He did not ask why she had come. He simply said, "You are welcome here. Rest as long as you need." Ayame bowed in return and entered the room. It was simple. A mat, a low table, a single candle. Through the window she could see the garden, moss-covered stones, a small stream, bamboo swaying gently. She sat down and tried to meditate as the monks did. But within moments her mind began its familiar spiral. She thought about the journey she had taken, the work she had left behind, the questions she still had not answered. She thought about whether she was meditating correctly, whether the monks were judging her, whether she should stay or leave. By evening she was exhausted, but not from stillness, from the relentless motion of her own thinking. The next morning she joined the monks in the meditation hall. They sat in perfect silence, unmoving, while she fidgeted and shifted, trying desperately to quiet her mind. Hours passed. The sun moved across the floor, and still her thoughts raged on. After several days of this, Ayame approached the abbot in the garden. "Forgive me," she said, "but I do not understand. I have come here to find peace, but my mind will not stop. What am I doing wrong? The abbot looked at her kindly. You are doing nothing wrong, he said. You are simply trying too hard to stop the river. Ayame frowned. But how can I find peace if my thoughts will not be silent? The abbot gestured to the stream beside them. Do you hear that water? He asked. She listened. The stream bubbled and murmured, flowing over rocks, constant and alive. Yes, she said. Does the water ever stop moving? He asked. No. And yet, is it not peaceful? Ayame was quiet. The abbot continued. You believe that peace requires the absence of thought, but the mind is like this stream. It moves. That is its nature. Peace does not come from stopping the mind. It comes from no longer fighting with it. He paused, letting the words settle. Sit beside your thoughts as you would sit beside this stream. Let them flow. Do not dam them. Do not follow them. Simply let them be. Ayame returned to her room that evening, with his words echoing softly in her mind. She sat by the window and watched the garden darken, and instead of trying to silence her thoughts, she simply noticed them. A thought arose. I should be better at this. She noticed it, did not argue with it, and let it pass. Another thought arose. What if I fail? She noticed it, did not follow it, and let it pass. One by one, the thoughts came and went, like leaves floating down the stream, and for the first time in years, she did not feel the need to grab at them, to analyze them, to make them mean something. She simply watched, and in that watching, a spaciousness opened. Not silence exactly, but a kind of ease, a softness she had forgotten was possible. She realized that her exhaustion had not come from the thoughts themselves, but from her constant battle with them. She had been trying to win a war that did not need to be fought. Over the following weeks, Ayame remained at the monastery, practicing this new way of being. She did not become a different person. Her mind still moved quickly, still generated ideas and questions and plans. But she no longer believed she had to control it. She learned to sit beside it, to let it flow, to rest in the awareness that held it all. When she finally prepared to leave, the abbot walked with her to the gate. You have learned something important, he said. Ayame bowed. I have learned that peace is not the absence of noise, she said. It is the presence of acceptance. The abbot smiled. Yes, and that acceptance is not passive. It is the deepest form of courage. Ayame returned to her life, to her work, to the world she had left behind, but she carried with her the memory of the stream, and whenever her mind began to spiral, she would pause. She would listen, and she would remember. The river does not stop, and yet it is at peace. Breathe. Let the story wash over you. Do not hold it. Do not analyze it. Simply let it be. Ayame's struggle is your struggle and mine, and that of every person who has ever tried to control the uncontrollable. We believe that if we could just think the right thoughts, solve the right problems, organize our minds perfectly, then we would finally be at peace. But the mind is not a problem to be solved. It is a river that flows. And peace is not found by stopping the river, but by sitting beside it, without fear. Tonight, as you lie here, notice the thoughts that arise. Do not push them away. Do not invite them closer. Simply let them pass, like clouds, like water, like breath. Each thought is just a moment, here and then gone. It is not who you are. It is simply something that arises within the vastness of your awareness. And that awareness, that quiet, listening presence, is always at peace. It is never disturbed, never exhausted, never in conflict. It simply is. Inhale gently. Exhale fully. Let your body grow heavier, softer, more still. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to change. The river flows whether you watch it or not. And peace is here, waiting, whenever you are ready to stop struggling. If these teachings bring you comfort, if this quiet space feels like home, you are welcome to return whenever you wish. You may subscribe or simply remember this place in your heart. It will be here, always, like the stream in the garden, flowing gently, waiting for you. But there is no obligation, no expectation. This is not a place of striving. It is simply a place of rest, and you are always welcome. Now, let us move deeper into the night. The air grows cooler, the world outside grows quieter, and we turn inward, where the truest teachings live. There is a story from the old temples, one that is rarely told but deeply felt by those who hear it. It is the story of a gardener, a sun, and the nature of permanence. The gardener and the eternal stone. In the hills beyond Kyoto, there was a temple famous for its garden. People traveled great distances to walk among its paths, to sit beneath its ancient trees, to see the moss-covered stones arranged with such care that they seemed to have grown there naturally. The garden was tended by an old man named Sora, who had devoted his entire life to its keeping. He rose each morning before the sun and walked the pathways with a quiet reverence, trimming leaves, sweeping petals, adjusting stones that had shifted in the rain. He worked slowly, without hurry, as though each gesture were a prayer. Visitors often asked him how the garden remained so perfect, so serene. Sora would smile and say nothing, returning to his work. He did not think of the garden as perfect. He thought of it as alive, always changing, always becoming something new. One autumn, a young monk arrived at the temple to train in meditation and study. He was eager, intense, and full of questions. He watched Sora tend the garden each day and grew curious about the old man's dedication. One morning, he approached him as he knelt beside a large stone, brushing away fallen leaves. "Sora-san," the young monk said, "why do you spend so much time on this garden? No matter how carefully you arrange it, the wind will scatter the leaves. The rain will move the stones. Everything you do will be undone." Sora looked up at him, his eyes calm and clear. "Yes," he said simply. The young monk frowned. "Then why do it at all? What is the point?" Sora set down his brush and stood slowly, his joints stiff from years of kneeling. He gestured to the stone beside him, a large granite boulder worn smooth by centuries of weather. "Do you see this stone?" he asked. The young monk nodded. "How long do you think it has been here?" The monk studied it. "Perhaps 1,000 years, he said. "Perhaps more," Sora agreed. "And how long do you think it will remain?" The monk shrugged. Forever, I suppose. It is stone. It does not change. Sora smiled. Come, he said, and led the monk to a shaded corner of the garden where the ground was soft and covered in moss. He knelt down and brushed aside the green layer, revealing small fragments of stone beneath, crumbling into soil. This was once a boulder like that one, Sora said. Centuries ago it sat where you are standing, but wind wore it down. Rain softened, its roots broke it apart, and now it is becoming earth. He looked at the young monk. Even stone changes. Even stone returns to the ground. The monk was silent, unsure of what to say. Sora stood and walked back to the large stone, running his hand over its surface. Nothing is permanent, he said. Not this garden, not this stone, not you, not me. But that is not a reason to stop caring. It is the reason to care more deeply. He picked up his brush again and continued sweeping. I do not tend this garden because I believe it will last forever, he said. I tend it because it is here now, and so am I. The young monk watched him for a long time, feeling something shift inside him, a loosening of the grip he had not known he was holding. So the work is not about the result? He asked quietly. No, Sora said. The work is the result. The young monk stayed at the temple for many years, studying meditation and philosophy, learning the sutras and the teachings. But it was Sora's lesson in the garden that stayed with him most clearly. He learned that life is not a problem to be solved or a task to be completed. It is simply a series of moments, each one fleeting, each one whole. And the practice is not to make those moments last, but to be fully present within them. Years later, Sora grew old and frail, and one winter morning, he did not rise from his bed. The monks found him peaceful, his face calm, his hands folded as though in meditation. They buried him beneath the trees he had loved, and the garden continued without him. The young monk, now older himself, took over the tending. He swept the leaves, adjusted the stones, brushed away the debris, and each morning, as he worked, he felt Sora's presence, not as a ghost, but as a teaching woven into the very soil. One day, a visitor asked him why he spent so much time on the garden when everything he did would eventually be undone. The monk smiled, just as Sora had. Because it is here now, he said, and so am I. Breathe deeply. Let the teaching settle. You do not need to memorize it or apply it immediately. Simply let it rest inside you, like a seed waiting for the right season. Sora's wisdom is ancient and ever new. Nothing lasts, and that is not a tragedy. It is the nature of life itself. We spend so much time building walls against impermanence, trying to make things stay, trying to freeze moments in place. But the river flows, the stone crumbles, the leaves fall, and no amount of clinging will stop it. What if instead of resisting change, you honored it? What if you tended the garden of your life knowing that it will not last forever, and loved it more, not less, because of that? Inhale slowly. Exhale completely. Feel the way your breath comes and goes, never holding, never permanent. This is the rhythm of all existence, arising and passing, arriving and leaving. And peace is found not in making things stay, but in being present with them while they are here. Where in your life are you trying to hold on? What are you afraid to lose? Notice it gently, and then imagine, just for a moment, what it would feel like to release your grip. Not because you do not care, but because you care deeply enough to let it be what it is. Let your hands soften. Let your chest open. There is a freedom in impermanence, a lightness in letting go. It does not mean you stop loving. It means you love without demand. Tonight, you can rest in that freedom. You can let go of the need to make anything last forever, because this moment is already whole. This breath is already enough. And you, just as you are exactly where you need to be. In the old days, there were wanderers, monks who carried nothing, owned nothing, and walked from village to village offering teachings. They lived on alms, slept under trees, and spoke only when asked. One such wanderer was known simply as the Silent Monk, though no one knew his true name. He walked the roads for decades, and those who encountered him said that even in his silence, he taught. The Silent Monk and the Broken Bowl. The Silent Monk travelled light. He carried a robe, a walking stick, and a single wooden bowl for receiving food. The bowl was old, carved by hand, worn smooth from years of use. It had been given to him by his teacher when he first began his wandering, and it was his only possession. One afternoon, the monk arrived at a small village nestled between rice fields. It was harvest time, and the people were busy, but a kind woman saw him standing at the edge of the road and brought him a bowl of soup. He bowed deeply, received the food with both hands, and sat beneath a tree to eat. As he lifted the bowl to his lips, it slipped. Perhaps his hands were tired from the long walk, or perhaps the bowl was simply ready to go. But it fell, splitting cleanly in two on the stone below. The soup spilled into the dirt, and the monk sat very still, looking at the broken pieces. The woman who had brought the food gasped and rushed over. "Oh, I am so sorry," she said. "Please let me fetch another bowl. I will bring you more soup." But the monk shook his head gently, smiling. He picked up the two halves of the bowl, ran his fingers along the rough edges, and bowed to them as though thanking an old friend. Then he set them down beside the tree and stood. The woman was confused. "But do you not need a bowl?" she asked. The monk looked at her with kind eyes and placed his palms together, bowing once more before continuing down the road. The woman watched him go, bewildered. She turned to her neighbor, who had been watching from across the way. "Why did he not take another bowl?" she asked. The neighbor, an old man who had seen many wanderers pass through, smiled softly. "Because he does not carry loss," the old man said. "He carries only what is." The woman thought about this for a long time. That evening, she walked to the tree where the monk had sat and found the two halves of the bowl still resting there, side by side. She picked them up, feeling their weight, their history, and she understood. The bowl had served its purpose. It had held food, brought nourishment, been a faithful companion. And when it broke, it did not become useless. It simply became something else. Two pieces of wood, returning to the earth. She brought the pieces home and placed them on her altar, not as a relic, but as a reminder that everything we hold will one day break, and that is not a failure. It is simply the nature of form. The silent monk continued his walking for many more years, and though he never replaced the bowl, he never went hungry. People offered him food in their own bowls, in cups, in hands, in ways he could not have imagined. And he received each offering with the same deep gratitude, knowing that nothing is owed, nothing is permanent, and nothing is truly lost. One winter in the mountains, the monk grew ill. His body, like the bowl, had served him well, but it too was ready to return. He found a quiet place beneath a pine tree, sat down in meditation and closed his eyes. When the villagers found him days later, he was still sitting, his face peaceful, his hands folded. They did not mourn him as one mourns the dead, but honored him as one honors a teacher whose lesson was not in words, but in the way he lived. They built no monument. They carved no stone. They simply remembered the way he had smiled when the bowl broke. And they carried that teaching with them, a quiet knowing that release is not loss, it is grace. Breathe. Let the story move through you like wind through an open window. The silent monk's teaching is one of the hardest to accept, that we will lose everything, and that this is not a tragedy. We are taught to hold tightly, to protect what we have, to fear the breaking. But what if the breaking is not the end? What if it is simply the next part of the story? The transformation that must come for life to continue. Inhale gently, exhale fully. Notice the way your breath releases completely, holding nothing back, trusting that another breath will come. This is the wisdom of impermanence, not clinging, not controlling, but trusting the rhythm of life itself. You have lost things in your life, people, dreams, versions of yourself, and perhaps you carry that loss like a wound, believing that something has been taken from you. But what if, like the bowl, those things served their purpose and then moved on? What if their breaking was not a failure, but a completion? Tonight, you can honor what has passed without needing it to return. You can hold the memory gently, without grasping, without bitterness. You can let the broken pieces rest, knowing they have given you everything they came to give. Let your jaw soften. Let your shoulders drop. There is nothing you need to hold together in this moment, nothing you need to fix or mend or make whole. You are already whole, even in your brokenness, especially in your brokenness, because it is the cracks that let the light through. It is the endings that make space for the new, and it is the courage to release what no longer serves you that opens the door to peace. Rest now, let the night hold you, let the breath carry you deeper into stillness. There is nothing to do, nowhere to be, no one you need to become. You are enough, just as you are, in this exact moment. And that is the whole of the teaching. The night deepens. The moon rises somewhere beyond your closed eyes, casting silver light across the world. Inside this quiet space, there is only the rhythm of your breath and the gentle invitation to rest. We turn now to a different kind of story, one that asks not what we should do, but who we think we are. The clay, Buddha, and the rain. In a temple courtyard, there stood a large statue of the Buddha, molded from clay and painted gold. It was beautiful, serene, with a gentle smile that seemed to welcome all who passed. For generations, monks and visitors alike had bowed before it, offered incense, and felt its peaceful presence. But over time, the paint began to fade. the gold dulled. Cracks appeared along the surface, and rain seeped in, softening the clay beneath. The monks tried to repair it, applying fresh paint, sealing the cracks, but the damage continued. One day, during a particularly heavy storm, part of the statue's chest crumbled away, revealing something unexpected. Beneath the clay there was something solid and gleaming. The monks carefully removed more of the outer layer, and as they did, they discovered that the entire statue was not clay at all. It was solid gold, covered in clay to protect it from thieves centuries before. Over the years, everyone had forgotten what lay beneath. They had only seen the surface, the painted exterior, and assumed that was all there was. But the true Buddha had been there all along, hidden, waiting to be uncovered. The monks stood in silence, staring at the gleaming figure before them. And one of them, the eldest, spoke softly. "This is the teaching we forget," he said. "We spend our lives polishing the surface, trying to make ourselves look golden, trying to cover our cracks. But beneath all of that, we are already whole. We have always been whole. It is not the paint that makes us valuable. It is what has always been underneath." From that day on, the statue remained as it was. Gold revealed, clay removed, unadorned and radiant. And those who came to see it felt something shift inside them. They realized that they too had been covering their true nature with layers of fear, expectation, and pretense. And perhaps, they thought, the practice of life is not to build themselves into something better. It is to gently chip away the clay, to reveal what has always been there. Breathe deeply. Let the teaching rest within you. This story is about you. Not the you that the world sees, the one who must perform, must succeed, must appear strong and capable, but the you that exists beneath all of that. The you that is already whole, already enough, already radiant with a quiet, unshakable worth. How much of your life is spent adding layers, layers of achievement, of appearance, of identity? How much energy goes into maintaining the clay, keeping the cracks hidden, making sure no one sees what lies beneath? But what if what lies beneath is not something to be ashamed of? What if it is the most precious thing you carry? Inhale slowly, exhale completely. Imagine just for a moment that you could stop trying to be impressive, stop trying to prove your worth, stop layering on more and more to hide the supposed flaws beneath. Imagine instead that you could trust what is already there, the quiet, steady, luminous self that has been with you all along. That self does not need to be earned. It does not need to be polished or perfected. It simply is. And tonight, in this stillness, you can rest in that knowing. You can let the clay fall away just a little. You can stop performing for an invisible audience and simply be. Let your face soften. Let your body relax completely. There is no one here to impress, no one to convince, no one to become. You are already the gold beneath the clay. You have always been, and nothing you do or fail to do will ever change that. In the mountains of Tibet, there was once a monastery so remote that only the most devoted travelers ever reached it. The journey took weeks, crossing high passes and icy rivers, and many turned back before arriving. But those who made it were greeted with a silence so profound it seemed to hold the sky itself. The monks who lived there practiced a meditation called resting in awareness, which required no effort, no striving, only a gentle return to the present. One year a scholar arrived, exhausted and seeking answers. The scholar and the empty cup. His name was Tenzin, and he had spent his entire life studying the mind. He had read every text, debated every master, and developed elaborate theories about consciousness, thought, and enlightenment. But despite all his knowledge, he felt no closer to peace. His mind was a storm of ideas, constantly churning, never resting. He had heard of the monastery in the mountains and believed that if he could just learn their secret, he would finally understand. When he arrived, the abbot welcomed him with a bow and invited him to sit for tea. Tenzin sat eagerly, ready to discuss philosophy, to ask his questions, to learn the hidden teachings. But the abbot said nothing. He simply poured tea into Tenzin's cup. The cup filled, and still the abbot poured. The tea overflowed, spilling onto the table, dripping onto the floor. Tenzin watched in confusion, then spoke up. "Master, the cup is full. No more will fit." The abbot set down the teapot and smiled. "Yes," he said, "you are like this cup, so full of knowledge, of theories, of ideas, that there is no room for anything new. If you want to understand, you must first empty yourself." Tenzin opened his mouth to respond, then stopped. He realized that even now, his mind was preparing an argument, a defense, a counter-theory. He could not hear the teaching because he was too busy thinking about the teaching. The abbot gestured to the window, where the mountains stretched endlessly, covered in snow. "Out there," he said, "there is nothing but space, no books, no words, no concepts, just presence. That is what we practice here, not the accumulation of knowledge, but the release of it." Tenzin stayed at the monastery for many months, struggling to empty his cup. He sat in meditation, but his mind filled with thoughts. He tried to observe them, but ended up analyzing them. He tried to let go, but found himself trying to master the art of letting go. One morning, exhausted and frustrated, he sat by the window and stared out at the mountains. He had given up trying. He simply looked. And in that looking, something shifted. The thoughts were still there, rising and falling, but he was no longer tangled in them. He was simply the space in which they appeared. Like the sky holding clouds, he held his thoughts without being moved by them. He sat there for hours, not meditating, not practicing, just being. And for the first time in his life, he felt the stillness that had always been there, underneath the noise. When he returned to the abbot, he said nothing. He simply bowed. The abbot bowed in return. "You have found it," the abbot said. "No," Tenzin replied. "I have stopped looking." The abbot laughed, a warm, genuine sound. "Yeah, that is the same thing." Tenzin eventually left the monastery, returning to the world he had come from. But he carried with him the teaching of the empty cup, not as a concept, but as a lived experience. He no longer needed to understand everything. He no longer needed to have all the answers. He could simply be present, spacious, open, a cup ready to receive rather than a container already full. Breathe. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. You are not your thoughts. You are not the endless stream of ideas, worries, plans, and memories. You are the awareness in which all of that appears, and that awareness is always at peace. It is never disturbed, never overwhelmed, never in conflict. It simply watches, allows, holds space. Tonight, as you rest, imagine that you are like the sky. Thoughts are clouds that pass through, some dark, some light, some lingering, some fleeting. But the sky remains unchanged. It does not cling to the clouds, does not push them away. It simply allows them to be, knowing they will move on. Inhale gently, exhale fully. Let your mind be the sky. Let your thoughts be the clouds, and rest in the spaciousness that holds it all. There is nothing you need to control, nothing you need to fix. The sky does not try to change the weather. It simply holds it all with infinite patience. Let your body grow heavier. Let your muscles soften. You are safe here. You are whole here. And the night is vast enough to hold everything you carry. As the hours pass and the world sleeps, we descend further into the quiet. This is the time when the teachings become not just stories, but felt truths. When the mind begins to release its grip and the heart opens to something deeper. Let us walk together through one more tale, one that asks us to look at what we fear most and find within it a surprising gift: the tiger and the monk. There was once a monk who lived alone in a cave high in the mountains. He spent his days in meditation, his nights in silence, and his life in devotion to understanding the nature of mind. He had left the world behind, seeking only peace. One winter, a tiger moved into the valley below his cave. It was an old tiger, scarred and weary, driven from its territory by younger, stronger rivals. It had come to the mountain to die. The monk saw the tiger one afternoon limping along the ridge, its breath visible in the cold air. He felt compassion for the creature and began leaving food outside his cave, scraps from his simple meals, offerings of kindness. The tiger accepted the food, and over time it grew comfortable near the monk's dwelling. It would sleep on the rocks below the cave entrance, sunning itself on clear days, resting in the shade when it rained. The monk continued his meditation, aware of the tiger's presence but not disturbed by it. One evening, as the monk sat in stillness, he heard a low growl. He opened his eyes and saw the tiger standing at the entrance to the cave, its eyes glowing in the dim light. For a moment, the monk felt fear rise in his chest, sharp, primal, undeniable. But instead of moving, instead of reacting, he simply observed the fear. He watched it the way he had learned to watch thoughts, rising, peaking, and then, slowly, subsiding. The tiger did not attack. It simply stood there, breathing heavily, its body weak, its time near. The monk rose slowly and approached the tiger, kneeling beside it. He placed his hand on the tiger's head, feeling the rough fur, the warmth, the life still pulsing beneath the surface. "You and I are not so different," the monk whispered. "We are both here, both breathing, both moving toward the same end." The tiger closed its eyes and rested its head on the ground. The monk stayed with it through the night, sitting in meditation as the tiger's breathing slowed. By morning, the tiger had passed, its body still and peaceful. The monk buried it beneath a tree and returned to his cave. But something had changed inside him. He had faced his fear, not with violence, not with escape, but with presence. And in doing so, he had seen that fear, like everything else, arises and passes. It is not who we are. It is simply a visitor, a wave on the ocean of awareness. For the rest of his life, the monk remembered the tiger, not as a threat, but as a teacher. It had shown him that even the things we fear most can be met with compassion, that the only way through fear is not around it, but directly into it, with an open heart and a steady mind. Breathe now. Let the teaching settle like snow on still water. What are you afraid of? Not the surface fears, missing a deadline, saying the wrong thing, but the deep ones. The fear of being alone, the fear of failing, the fear of losing what you love, the fear of not being enough. These fears are like the tiger, powerful, undeniable, capable of consuming you. But they are also just visitors. They arise from the mind, take form in the body, and then, if we let them, they pass. The practice is not to fight them, not to run from them, but to meet them with awareness, to sit with them the way the monk sat with the tiger, present, steady, unafraid of the fear itself. Inhale slowly, exhale completely. Imagine that your fear is sitting beside you right now, visible and tangible. Instead of pushing it away, imagine placing your hand on its head, just as the monk did. Imagine saying to it, gently, "You are here, I see you, but you are not all that I am." Feel the way that acknowledgement softens the fear, makes it less monstrous, less overwhelming. It is still there, yes, but it no longer has the power to control you. Let your body relax, let your breathing deepen. The tiger has come and the tiger will go, and you, the awareness that witnesses it all, will remain untouched, at peace. The hours stretch long now, and the night feels infinite. There is no rush. There is no place to be but here, no task to complete but rest. Let us move gently into the realm of pure philosophy, where words dissolve and only presence remains. Imagine a candle burning in an empty room. It flickers softly, casting light and shadow on the walls. There is no one there to see it, no one to name it, no one to measure its brightness or judge its flame. It simply burns. Does the candle know it is burning? Does the flame ask why? No. It exists fully, completely, without question or doubt. This is the nature of pure being, effortless, unself-conscious, whole. Now imagine yourself as that candle. Not the story of who you are, not the roles you play or the identity you've built, but the simple fact of your existence here and now, breathing, present, alive. You are not the thoughts that tell you who you should be. You are not the memories that define where you've been. You are not the plans that project where you're going. You are simply here now, burning quietly in the vastness of existence. And that is enough. That has always been enough. Breathe in, breathe out. The breath does not belong to you. It moves through you, like wind through a valley. The thoughts do not belong to you. They arise in the space of awareness, like clouds in the sky. The body does not belong to you. It is a temporary form, borrowed from the earth, soon to return. So what are you really, beneath all of these borrowed things? You are the awareness itself, the spaciousness, the silence, the presence that witnesses everything but is untouched by it. This awareness has no beginning and no end. It does not age, does not tire, does not fear. It is always here, always now, always at peace. And when you rest in it, when you stop trying to be someone, to do something, to become something, you find that peace has been waiting for you all along. Not in the future, not after you've fixed everything, not once you've earned it, but here now in this exact moment. Let your shoulders drop, let your face soften, let the weight of striving fall away. You do not need to understand this teaching. You do not need to remember it. You simply need to feel it, the way you feel warmth from the sun or coolness from the rain. You are already home. You have never left. And the search for peace is simply the recognition of what has always been. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from clinging to pleasure, to identity, to ideas of how things should be. And that liberation comes not from getting what we want, but from releasing the need to hold on. This teaching is simple, but it cuts to the core of human experience. We are grippers, holders, clenchers. We believe that if we hold tightly enough, we can keep what we love from leaving. But life does not work that way. Everything flows. Everything changes. And the attempt to stop the flow is what causes pain. Imagine holding sand in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. But if you hold your hand open, palm up, the sand rests there, undisturbed. This is the practice. Learning to hold life with an open hand, not abandoning what you love, but loving without grasping, not rejecting what arises, but allowing it to be without clinging. Inhale gently. Exhale fully. What are you holding too tightly? What are you afraid will slip away if you release your grip? Tonight, just for a moment, imagine letting it rest in your open palm, not casting it away, but simply allowing it to be, without force, without fear. Feel the way that openness creates space. Space for breath, for ease, for peace. Let your hands relax. Let your jaw soften. You do not need to hold the world together. You do not need to control the outcome. Life will unfold as it must, whether you grasp or release. And peace comes not from making it go your way, but from accepting it as it is. There is a teaching in Zen that says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. This is not a riddle. It is a reminder that transformation is not about transcending life, but about living it fully, exactly as it is. The enlightened person does not float above the ground, untouched by difficulty. They chop wood, they carry water, they wash dishes, pay bills, feel tired, experience loss. But they do so without the burden of resistance, without the story that it should be otherwise. They meet each moment as it is, not as they wish it were. And in that meeting, there is a kind of grace, a lightness that comes not from escaping life, but from embracing it. You do not need to become someone else to find peace. You do not need to achieve some higher state, transcend your humanness, or escape your ordinary life. You simply need to meet it, fully, honestly, without pretending it is anything other than what it is. When you are tired, be tired. When you are sad, be sad. When you are joyful, be joyful. Do not add the second layer of suffering, the judgment, the resistance, the story that you should feel differently. Just be. Breathe in, breathe out. This moment is not a stepping stone to some better moment. It is complete in itself. And you, in your imperfect, human, struggling, beautiful way, are complete as well. The night deepens still, and the world outside grows so quiet you can almost hear the stars turning. Here in the silence there is no teacher, no teaching, no separation between you and the truth. There is only presence. Let us rest here for a while, in the spaciousness of simply being. Breathe. Let the breath be soft, effortless, unforced. Let it rise and fall like gentle waves, carrying you deeper into stillness. With each exhale, feel yourself sinking, releasing, letting go. There is nothing to hold, nothing to carry, nothing to become. You are already here, already whole, already free. The mind may still whisper, thoughts may still arise, but they are distant now, like voices in another room. You do not need to listen. You do not need to respond. Simply rest in the awareness that holds them all. This awareness is vast, infinite, unchanging. It has been with you since birth, and it will remain long after the body fades. It is not personal, it is the ground of all existence, the silence beneath the noise. And when you rest in it, you are home. Let your body grow heavier, softer, more still. Feel the surface beneath you, supporting you, holding you. You are safe. You are held. You are exactly where you need to be. The journey is over. There is nowhere else to go, nothing else to seek. The peace you have been searching for has been here all along, waiting beneath the surface. And now, at last, you have found it. Not through effort, but through surrender. Not through striving, but through stillness. Not through becoming someone else, but through being exactly who you are. Breathe, and let the night hold you. Let the darkness wrap around you like a soft blanket, warm and safe. Let your thoughts drift like leaves on a slow river, carried by the current, no longer yours to direct. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to fix, nothing left to understand. Only this, only now, only breath. And in that simplicity, you are free. The ancient teachers spoke of 3 marks of existence: impermanence, suffering, and non-self. These are not pessimistic views, but clear observations of reality. Everything changes. Clinging causes pain, and the self we think we are is not as solid as it seems. But within these truths is a hidden gift, liberation. When we truly understand that nothing lasts, we stop clinging to what cannot be held. When we see that suffering comes from resistance, we stop fighting what is. And when we realize that the self is not a fixed entity, but a flowing process, we stop trying to defend and protect something that was never under threat. This is not nihilism, it is freedom. Because if there is no permanent self to protect, then there is nothing to lose. If everything is already changing, then change is not the enemy. It is the nature of life itself. And if clinging causes pain, then release brings peace. Inhale slowly, exhale completely. Who are you, really? Not the name you carry, not the story you tell yourself, not the role you play in the world. Who are you beneath all of that? Are you the thoughts that pass through your mind? No, because you can observe them, which means you are separate from them. Are you the emotions that rise and fall in your chest? No, because they come and go while you remain. Are you the body that ages and changes? No, because the body you had 10 years ago is not the same as the one you have now, and yet you are still here. So who is this you that remains? It is the awareness itself, the spaciousness, the presence that has been watching, listening, witnessing since the very beginning. That presence is your true nature. It is not personal, it is universal. It is the same awareness that exists in every being, in every moment, in every breath. And when you rest in it, you are not separate from the world. You are the world experiencing itself. Let your body relax completely. Let your mind grow quiet. You are not a separate self, struggling to survive in a hostile universe. You are an expression of the universe itself, arising and passing, no more or less significant than a wave on the ocean. And that is not a diminishment. It is a profound freedom. Because if you are not separate, then there is nothing to defend. If you are not permanent, then there is nothing to lose. If you are not the center of the story, then the story cannot wound you. You are simply here now, part of the great unfolding, whole and complete. Breathe and rest in that knowing. In the old days, monks would sit for hours in meditation, watching the mind the way one watches a fire. They did not try to control it, did not judge it, did not fight with it. They simply observed. And over time they noticed something remarkable. The mind, when left alone, begins to settle. Not because they forced it to, not because they applied some technique, but simply because settling is its natural state. The mind is like a pond. When disturbed, it ripples and churns, muddying the water. But when left undisturbed, the silt sinks, the water clears, and the surface becomes still. You do not need to make your mind peaceful. You simply need to stop disturbing it. Stop chasing thoughts. Stop resisting emotions. Stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Just sit. Just breathe. Just be. And the mind in its own time will remember how to rest. Inhale gently. Exhale fully. Fully. There is no rush, no deadline for enlightenment, no test to pass or goal to achieve. You are simply here, present, breathing. And that is the whole practice. Let your body grow heavier, softer, more still. Let the night surround you, holding you in its vast, gentle silence. You are safe here. You are whole here. And nothing, no thought, no fear, no doubt, can disturb the peace that is your true nature. There is a teaching from the Tao Te Ching that says, "The Tao does nothing, yet nothing is left undone." This is the paradox of effortless action, Wu Wei in Chinese. It is not passivity, not laziness, not resignation. It is action that arises naturally without force, without struggle, aligned with the flow of life. Think of a river. It does not push against the rocks, it flows around them. It does not force its way downhill, it simply follows gravity. And yet, over time, it carves canyons, shapes landscapes, reaches the sea. This is Wu Wei, effortless power, gentle persistence, action without aggression. Now think of your life. How much of your energy is spent forcing, pushing, trying to make things happen? How much tension do you carry from the belief that if you don't control everything, it will all fall apart? What if you could trust the flow? What if you could act when action is needed and rest when rest is called for, without overthinking, without second-guessing? What if you could move through life the way the river moves, responsive, fluid, at ease? Inhale slowly, exhale completely. This is not about giving up, about becoming passive or indifferent. It is about releasing the illusion of control and trusting the intelligence of life itself. The heart beats without your instruction. The breath flows without your permission. The body heals without your management. And life, when you stop interfering, unfolds with a grace you could never have orchestrated. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw soften. You do not need to hold the world on your back. You do not need to figure everything out. You simply need to show up, be present, and respond to what arises. The river does not worry about the ocean. It simply flows, trusting that the path will reveal itself, and so can you. We are near the end now, though there is no real end. Only a softening, a fading, a return to silence. Let us rest here for a while longer, in the gentle company of stillness. Breathe. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the surface beneath you. Feel the coolness of the air on your skin, the warmth of your breath. There is nowhere to go, nothing to do, nothing to become. You are simply here, breathing, alive, whole. And that is enough. That has always been enough. The mind may try to convince you otherwise, that you need to be more, do more, achieve more. But the mind is not the truth. It is just a voice, a habit, a pattern learned long ago. Beneath it, there is a deeper knowing, a knowing that you are already complete. That peace is not something you earn, it is something you uncover. That you are not a work in progress, you are a masterpiece in progress. Always becoming, always whole. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let your thoughts drift away like clouds dissolving into the horizon. There is nothing left to figure out, nothing left to solve, nothing left to hold. Only this, only now, only breath. And in the spaciousness of this moment, you are free. Free from the past, which no longer exists. Free from the future, which has not yet arrived. Free from the story of who you think you should be. You are simply here, simply yourself, simply present. And that is the whole of it. That is the teaching. That is the practice. That is the peace. The candle burns low now, its flame flickering softly in the darkness. Outside, the world continues. Trees sway, stars turn, rivers flow. But here, in this quiet space, time has softened into something timeless. And you, resting in the embrace of the night, are held, not by anything you can name, but by the silence itself. The silence that has always been here, waiting for you to stop and listen. The silence that holds all sound, all breath, all life. And in that silence, you are home. You have always been home. The journey was only an illusion, a story the mind told to keep itself busy. But now the story is over. The seeking is done. And what remains is simply this: presence, awareness, peace. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the breath be your anchor, your guide, your return. And know that wherever you go, whatever you face, this peace is always here. Not somewhere else, not in the future, not dependent on circumstances, but here now in the quiet center of your being, always accessible, always available, always home. Rest now, friend. Let the night hold you. Let the breath carry you deeper into stillness. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to be. Only this gentle drifting, this soft releasing, this return to the source. And as the candle burns low, as the words fade into silence, know that you are safe. You are whole. You are enough. And the peace you have been searching for has been here all along, waiting, quietly, beneath the noise, beneath the doing, beneath the story. Just breath, just presence, just this. The night is here, the breath moves on its own. And all is well, all has always been well, and all will always be well. Rest, be still. You are home. Now we descend into the final part of our journey together, the deepest layer of stillness, where words begin to dissolve and only presence remains. Let us walk this last stretch slowly, savoring each step, each breath, each moment of quiet. There is an old Zen saying, sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes and the grass grows by itself. This is not about laziness or passivity. It is about trust. Trust that life knows what it's doing. Trust that you do not need to force every outcome. Trust that there is an intelligence at work in the universe far greater than your individual will. The grass does not try to grow, it simply grows. The spring does not announce itself, it simply arrives. And you, in your essence, do not need to become enlightened. You already are the light. You have simply forgotten, covered over by years of conditioning, expectation and fear. But tonight, in this stillness, you remember. Not with the mind, but with the body. Not with thought, but with presence. You remember what it feels like to simply be, without agenda, without destination. To exist as the grass exists, rooted, growing, alive. Inhale slowly, exhale completely. Feel the way the breath moves without your effort, without your control. It knows what to do, just as your heart knows how to beat, just as your cells know how to divide and heal, just as the seasons know when to turn. You are part of that same intelligence. You are not separate from the life force that moves through all things. You are an expression of it, a manifestation of it, a unique and temporary form it has taken. And when you remember that, the burden of being a separate self, struggling, striving, defending, falls away. What remains is spaciousness, ease, a quiet joy that needs no reason. Let your body relax completely. Let your mind grow still. You do not need to understand this teaching. You do not need to achieve it. You simply need to rest in it, the way a child rests in the arms of a parent, trusting, safe, whole. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a concept called emptiness, shunyata in Sanskrit. It is often misunderstood as meaning nothingness, but that is not quite right. Emptiness does not mean that nothing exists. It means that nothing exists independently, permanently, or in isolation. Everything is interconnected, interdependent, constantly changing. The tree exists because of the soil, the rain, the sun, the air. The soil exists because of the decomposition of ancient forests, the movement of glaciers, the activity of microbes. The rain exists because of the ocean, the heat, the wind. On and on, endlessly, everything arising together, nothing standing alone. You too are empty in this way, not empty of existence, but empty of separateness. You are not an isolated self, cut off from the world, struggling to survive. You are a process, a flow, a meeting place of countless causes and conditions. The food you ate yesterday is now part of your body. The air you breathe is shared with every living being on the planet. The thoughts in your mind were shaped by every conversation, every book, every experience you've ever had. You are not separate from the world. You are the world, experiencing itself from this particular point of view. And when you see this clearly, the fear of death begins to soften. Because there is no separate self to die, only a pattern that arises and dissolves like a wave on the ocean. The wave is not separate from the ocean. It is the ocean, temporarily taking the form of a wave. And when the wave crashes on the shore, it does not disappear. It returns to the ocean, which was always its true nature. You are like that wave. You arose from the vastness, took form for a time, and will return to the vastness. Nothing is lost, nothing is gained, only form changes, while the essence remains. Breathe in, breathe out. Let this teaching settle not in your mind, but in your bones. You are not a separate self, you are the universe. Looking out through these eyes, feeling with this heart. And when you know that, truly know it, the loneliness that haunts so many lives begins to fade. Because you are never alone, you are always connected, always part of the whole, always held. Let your body soften, let your breath deepen. You are safe, you are whole, you are home. As we move deeper into the night, I want to invite you into a meditation on letting go, not letting go of specific things, though that may happen, but letting go of the habit of holding on. We hold on to so much, to ideas of who we are, to expectations of how life should be, to memories that have long since passed. And all of that holding creates tension, rigidity, suffering. What if, just for tonight, you could practice releasing that grip? Imagine your hands are full, clutching tightly to everything you think you need to hold. Your identity, your achievements, your regrets, your plans. All of it held so tightly that your knuckles are white, your arms are tired, your shoulders ache. Now imagine opening your hands, slowly, gently, and letting everything fall. Not throwing it away in anger or frustration, but simply releasing it, letting it go. As you do, notice what happens. The tension in your hands softens, the weight in your arms lifts, the ache in your shoulders dissolves, and what remains is not emptiness, but spaciousness, room to breathe, room to rest, room to simply be. Inhale slowly, exhale completely. With each exhale, imagine releasing a little more tension, a little more effort, a little more need to control, and with each inhale, imagine receiving what is already here: peace, presence, wholeness. You do not need to hold the world together, it will continue without your grip. And you, when you release that impossible burden, will finally be free. Let your shoulders drop, let your face soften, let your whole body become heavy, soft, at ease. There is nothing left to carry, nothing left to defend, nothing left to prove. Only this, only now, only breath. The poet Rumi wrote, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." This is true not just for love, but for peace. Peace is not something you create. It is something you uncover by removing the barriers. The barrier of judgment, the barrier of resistance, the barrier of fear. When those fall away, peace is what remains. It has always been there, beneath the noise, waiting for you to stop struggling and simply rest. Tonight, you are practicing that uncovering, not by adding anything, not by becoming someone new, but by releasing what is false. The false belief that you are not enough, the false belief that you must earn your peace, the false belief that something is wrong with you. All of these are just stories learned long ago, no longer true if they ever were. Beneath them is the simple, undeniable fact of your existence. You are here, you are breathing, you are alive, and that is enough. That has always been enough. Breathe. Let the breath carry away the false stories, the old burdens, the unnecessary weight. Let it carry you deeper into the truth of who you are, not who you think you should be, not who others expect you to be, but who you are, right now, in this moment, whole, complete, enough. Let your body grow heavier, let your mind grow quieter. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to figure out, nothing left to become. You are already there, you have always been there, and the journey home is simply the recognition of that truth. There is more to explore in this quiet space, more stories to unfold, more wisdom to rest in. Let us continue our journey together, moving even deeper into stillness. The ferryman and the river of time. Along a wide river that separated two provinces, there lived a ferryman named Kenji. Every day he would row passengers across the water, taking them from one shore to the other. Some were merchants carrying goods, some were pilgrims seeking temples, some were simply travelers passing through. Kenji had been doing this work for 40 years. His father had been a ferryman, and his grandfather before him. The work was simple, repetitive, and unremarkable to most who watched. But to Kenji, each crossing was different. Each moment on the water was new. One morning, a young scholar boarded his boat, carrying heavy books and scrolls. The scholar sat down impatiently, sighing deeply as Kenji began to row. "This is such a waste of time," the scholar muttered. "I could be reading, studying, learning." Kenji said nothing, simply continued his steady rowing. The scholar looked at him. "Do you not get bored, old man, rowing back and forth day after day, year after year?" Kenji smiled gently. Bored, he said. How could I be bored? The river is never the same twice. The scholar frowned. What do you mean? It's the same river, the same crossing. Kenji dipped his oar into the water and held it there for a moment. See how the current pulls, he said. Yesterday it flowed differently. Tomorrow it will change again. See the light on the water? This morning it is silver. Last week it was gold. See the birds? Today they fly north. Soon they will fly south. The river is always moving, always becoming something new. And so am I. The scholar was quiet, watching the water now with new attention. Kenji continued, You think this is wasted time because you are not reading, not studying, not accumulating knowledge. But what if this moment is not a gap between important moments? What if this is the important moment? The scholar set down his books. I have spent my whole life preparing for the future, he said quietly, studying for exams, planning my career, working towards some distant goal. I do not know how to simply be here in this moment without it meaning something or leading somewhere. Kenji nodded. That is the sickness of our age, he said. We are always preparing, always rushing toward the next thing, never arriving. But the truth is, you have already arrived. You are here, the journey is over. The scholar looked confused. But I am on my way to the capital. The journey is not over. It has barely begun. No, Kenji said gently. The journey never begins and never ends. There is only this moment, and this one, and this one. Each moment is complete in itself. Each breath is a full life. They reached the far shore and the scholar stepped out of the boat slowly. He bowed to Kenji. Thank you, he said. You have taught me something my books could not. Kenji bowed in return. The river teaches, I only row. The scholar walked away, but he carried something new with him, a quiet awareness that life is not in the future or the past, but right here, in the simple act of breathing, walking, being. Years later, that same scholar became a teacher himself, and when his students asked him about enlightenment, he would tell them about the ferryman. Enlightenment is not some distant achievement, he would say. It is the simple recognition that you are already here, already home, already complete. It is rowing the boat with full attention. It is watching the light change on the water. It is being present with what is, without wishing it was something else. Breathe now. Let Kenji's teaching settle within you. How much of your life is spent in preparation, in anticipation, in waiting for the real moment to arrive? How much energy goes into planning, rehearsing, imagining some future state where you will finally be happy, finally at peace? But the future never comes. There is only now, this moment, this breath. And if you cannot find peace here, you will not find it anywhere. Inhale gently, exhale completely. Feel the way this moment is already complete. You are not waiting for anything. You are not lacking anything. You are simply here, breathing, alive, and that is enough. Let your body sink deeper into rest. Let your mind release its grip on the future. There is nowhere to get to, nothing to achieve. You have already arrived. You are already home. And peace is not something that will come tomorrow. It is here now, waiting for you to notice. In the mountains of Japan, there was once a monastery where silence was not just practiced, it was revered. The monks believed that true wisdom could not be transmitted through words, only through presence. And so they lived in quietness, speaking only when absolutely necessary. The tea master and the empty cup. Among these monks was a man named Hideo, who had spent 20 years in silence. He had taken a vow not to speak until he had understood the nature of emptiness. But despite his years of meditation, despite his discipline and devotion, he still felt something was missing. One winter, a traveling tea master arrived at the monastery. His name was Sen, and he was famous throughout the region for his ceremonies, simple, elegant, profound. The abbot invited him to perform a tea ceremony for the monks, and they gathered in the main hall to watch. Sen moved with exquisite slowness. He boiled the water, measured the tea, whisked it into a pale green froth. He poured the tea into a simple clay cup and placed it before Hideo, who had been chosen as the guest of honor. Hideo lifted the cup and drank. The tea was bitter, earthy, warm. But what struck him was not the taste, it was the emptiness. The cup, before it was filled, was empty, and after he drank, it was empty again. But the emptiness was not lack, it was possibility. It was the space that allowed the tea to exist. Without the emptiness of the cup, there could be no tea. Without the emptiness of his mind, there could be no awareness. Hideo set down the cup and, for the first time in 20 years, spoke. "Thank you," he said simply. Sen bowed. The ceremony was complete. Later, when the abbot asked Hideo why he had broken his vow of silence, Hideo smiled. "I finally understood," he said. "Silence is not the absence of words, it is the presence of emptiness. And emptiness is not nothing, it is everything. It is the space in which all things arise and return." The abbot nodded. "You have learned the teaching. Now you may speak or remain silent as you wish, for you know they are the same." Hideo lived many more years, and he spoke when speech was needed and remained silent when it was not. But whether he spoke or not, he carried within him the understanding of the empty cup, that fullness and emptiness are not opposites. They are two aspects of the same truth. And peace is found not in clinging to fullness or fearing emptiness, but in resting in the spaciousness that holds them both. Breathe. Let the teaching move through you like water through a vessel. You too are like the empty cup. You are not a solid, fixed thing, you are a space in which life arises. Thoughts arise in the space of your awareness and then dissolve. Emotions arise in the space of your heart and then pass. Experiences arise in the space of your being and then fade. And that space, that emptiness, is not lack. It is the ground of all possibility. It is the canvas on which life paints itself. Inhale slowly. Exhale completely. Feel the emptiness inside you, not as loneliness or absence, but as spaciousness, openness, freedom. You do not need to fill every moment with activity, every silence with noise. You can rest in the emptiness, trusting that it is the source of all creation. Let your body relax completely. Let your mind grow still. You are the cup, empty, receptive, whole. And in that emptiness, you are truly full. There is a story told in the old temples about a student and a master, a question and an answer. The question that could not be answered. A young monk approached his master one evening and asked, "What is the meaning of life?" The master looked at him and said, "Go tend the garden." The monk was confused but obeyed. He spent the afternoon pulling weeds, watering plants, sweeping paths. When he returned, he asked again, "Master, what is the meaning of life?" The master said, "Go prepare dinner." Again the monk obeyed, chopping vegetables, cooking rice, setting the table. When the meal was done, he asked once more, "Master, please, what is the meaning of life?" The master smiled. "You have been living it all day," he said. "The meaning is in the doing, not in the answer." The monk sat down, frustrated. "But I want to understand," he said. "I want to know the truth." The master leaned forward. "The truth cannot be understood with the mind," he said. "It can only be lived with the body. When you pull weeds, you are living the truth. When you cook rice, you are living the truth." The question, "What is the meaning?" is the mind's way of avoiding the present moment. It is a distraction from the fact that you are already here, already alive, already complete. The monk was silent for a long time. Then he stood, bowed, and returned to the garden. He never asked the question again, not because he found the answer, but because he realized the question itself was the problem. Life does not have a meaning that can be explained. It is meaning itself, unfolding moment by moment. And the practice is not to figure it out, but to participate fully in it, to pull the weeds with full attention, to cook the rice with care, to breathe, to walk, to live without needing it to mean something other than what it is. Breathe. Let the story settle in your chest, in your belly, in your bones. You too have been asking questions, some spoken, some silent. Why am I here? What should I do with my life? Am I enough? And these questions, while natural, keep you at a distance from the truth. Because the truth is not an answer, it is an experience. It is the feeling of your breath moving in and out. It is the sensation of your body resting here, now. It is the simple fact of your existence, which needs no justification, no explanation, no meaning beyond itself. Inhale gently, exhale fully. You are here. That is enough. You are breathing. That is the whole teaching. Everything else, the questions, the doubts, the searching, is just the mind trying to make something simple complicated. Let your mind rest. Let your body soften. You do not need to understand life. You only need to live it. And you are doing that now, perfectly, exactly as you are. In the old traditions, there was a practice called just sitting, shikantaza in Japanese. It is not meditation in the sense of focusing on an object or repeating a mantra. It is simply sitting, being present, without goal or agenda. The instruction is beautifully simple. Sit down, be still, and let everything be as it is. Do not try to achieve anything. Do not try to change anything. Just sit. This is one of the most difficult practices because the mind rebels against it. The mind wants to do something, to accomplish something, to make progress. But in just sitting, there is no progress to make. You are already there, and the practice is simply recognizing that truth over and over again. Breathe. Right now, you are practicing just sitting, just lying, just being. You are not trying to become enlightened. You are not trying to fix yourself or improve yourself. You are simply here, allowing this moment to be exactly what it is. And in that allowing, there is a profound peace. Not the peace of accomplishment, but the peace of acceptance. Not the peace of perfection, but the peace of being human, flawed, alive. Inhale slowly, exhale completely. Let your body be heavy. Let your mind be spacious. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to become. Only this, only now, only breath. The Buddha once held up a flower in front of his disciples and said nothing. Most of them were confused, waiting for an explanation, a teaching, a profound statement. But one disciple, Mahakashapa, simply smiled. He understood. The Buddha smiled back and said, "I have a treasure of truth which I have transmitted to Mahakashapa." What was transmitted? Not words, not concepts, not philosophy, just presence, just the simple recognition that this moment, a flower, a breath, a smile, is complete in itself. It does not need to be explained or understood. It only needs to be witnessed. This is the essence of Zen. Direct experience, immediate presence, wordless knowing. And you can access it right now, in this moment, without any special knowledge or training. Simply notice. Notice the breath. Notice the weight of your body. Notice the silence between thoughts. And in that noticing, you are touching the same truth that the Buddha transmitted with a flower. You are awake. You are present. You are home. Let us rest here for a while in silence. Not the absence of sound, but the fullness of presence. Listen. Can you hear the silence beneath the noise? Can you feel the stillness beneath the movement? It is always there, waiting, like the ocean beneath the waves. And when you rest in it, even for a moment, everything changes. Not because you have changed, but because you have stopped trying to be something other than what you are. Breathe, and let the silence hold you. There is a teaching that says, the obstacle is the path. What you resist, what you avoid, what you fear, that is not separate from your awakening. It is the very ground on which awakening occurs. Many people believe that peace comes when all the difficulties are removed, when the pain stops, when the anxiety fades, when life finally becomes easy. But that is not how it works. Peace comes when you stop fighting with what is, when you meet the difficulty with openness instead of resistance, when you bow to the obstacle and say, "You too are my teacher." Inhale slowly, exhale completely. What are you resisting right now? What are you pushing away, wishing were different? Notice it gently, without judgment. And then imagine, just for a moment, what it would feel like to stop fighting. Not to give up, but to accept. To say, this is how it is right now, and I can be present with this. That acceptance is not resignation, it is freedom. Because when you stop fighting, the energy that was bound up in resistance becomes available for something else. For compassion, for creativity, for peace. Let your shoulders soften, let your jaw release. The obstacle is not the enemy, it is the path itself, showing you where you are still holding on, still trying to control. And when you release that control, you discover something surprising. You were never really in control anyway. Life has been flowing all along, carrying you, holding you, moving you exactly where you need to be. All you have to do is stop fighting the current and let it carry you home. The potter and the broken vessel. In a small village, there lived a potter known for her beautiful work. Her vessels were graceful, symmetrical, perfectly balanced. People came from distant towns to buy her pottery, and she was celebrated as a master of her craft. But one day, as she was carrying a large vase to the kiln, it slipped from her hands and shattered on the stone floor. She stood there, staring at the pieces, feeling something unexpected. Relief. For years, she had been trying to make each piece perfect, striving for flawlessness, terrified of mistakes. But now, looking at the broken shards, she saw something she had never noticed before. The broken edges caught the light in unexpected ways. The imperfection revealed the layers of clay, the process of creation, the humanity of the work. She picked up the pieces and, instead of throwing them away, she began to work with them. She ground some into powder and mixed it into new clay. She used others as decorative elements, setting them into new vessels. She even left some pieces unglazed, raw, exposing their brokenness. And the work she created after that moment was different. It was still beautiful, but now it carried a depth it had not had before. It was real, honest, unafraid of imperfection. People noticed the change. "Your new work has something special," they said. "It feels more alive." The potter smiled. "Because it is no longer trying to be perfect," she said. "It is simply being itself." She never forgot the lesson of the broken vase. That perfection is not the goal, wholeness is, and wholeness includes the breaks, the cracks, the flaws. It does not deny them or hide them. It embraces them as part of the beauty. Breathe. You too are like that broken vase. You carry wounds, mistakes, moments you wish you could undo. And perhaps you believe that these imperfections make you less valuable, less worthy, less whole. But what if it is precisely these cracks that make you beautiful? What if your brokenness is not something to hide, but something to honor? Inhale slowly. Exhale completely. You do not need to be perfect to be worthy of peace. You do not need to have it all together, to have all the answers, to be flawless. You are enough, exactly as you are, broken and whole, imperfect and complete. The Japanese have a practice called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold. The cracks are not hidden, they are highlighted, celebrated, made beautiful. The philosophy is that the vessel is more valuable after it has been broken, because the repair becomes part of its history, part of its story. You are like that vessel, your wounds, your struggles, your failures. They are not flaws that diminish you. They are part of your story, and they can become sources of strength, of wisdom, of compassion. Let your body relax. Let your heart soften. You do not need to fix yourself. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a work in progress, always becoming, always whole. And the cracks are where the light gets in. As we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a final image. Imagine a temple at dawn. The air is cool, the sky pale with the first light of morning. Inside the temple, a single candle burns on the altar, its flame steady and bright. Around it, the darkness is slowly receding, not because the candle is pushing it away, but simply because light naturally dispels darkness. You are like that candle. Your true nature is light. Awareness, presence, peace. And the darkness you sometimes feel, the fear, the doubt, the confusion, is not your enemy. It is simply the absence of light. And as you rest in your true nature, as you return again and again to the simplicity of breath, the darkness naturally recedes. Not because you fight it, but because you have stopped feeding it. You have stopped believing the stories it tells. You have stopped identifying with the shadows on the wall. And what remains is just this, the light of your own being, quiet, steady, unshakable. Breathe, and let that light shine effortlessly, naturally, without force. Let it illuminate the space around you, not so that others can see you, but so that you can see clearly. See the truth of who you are. See the beauty of this moment. See the grace that has been holding you all along. The night is deep now, and the world is silent. There is only the sound of your breath, the rhythm of your heart, the quiet presence of being, and in that silence there is everything. All the teachings, all the wisdom, all the peace you have been seeking. It is all here in this moment, not in some distant future, not in some other place, but here, now, in the simple act of breathing. You do not need to go anywhere. You do not need to become anyone. You are already home. You have always been home. And the journey was only a way of remembering what you never truly forgot. Breathe in, breathe out, and know that you are safe. You are whole. You are loved, not by some external force, but by the very fabric of existence itself. You are a part of this vast, intelligent, compassionate universe, and it holds you the way the ocean holds a wave. You cannot fall out of it. You cannot be separate from it. You are it, and it is you. And when you rest in that knowing, all seeking ends, all striving ceases, and what remains is simply this: peace, presence, wholeness. Let your body relax completely. Let your mind dissolve into silence. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to be, nothing left to understand. Only this gentle drifting, this soft releasing, this return to the source. The candle burns low, the flame flickers once, twice, then steadies. Outside, the first birds begin to sing, welcoming the dawn that will eventually come. But for now, there is only this: the quiet, the dark, the deep rest. And you, held in the arms of the night, are finally, truly at peace. Rest now, friend. Let go completely. There is nowhere to go, nothing to do, no one to be. Only this breath, this moment, this gentle, infinite now. And all is well. All has always been well, and all will always be well. But let us not end quite yet. There is more depth to explore, more silence to inhabit, more peace to uncover. Let us descend one final layer into the very heart of stillness. The monk who forgot how to meditate. In a monastery high in the Himalayas, there lived a monk who had meditated every day for 50 years. His name was Rinzan, and he was known throughout the region as a master of concentration. He could sit for hours without moving, his mind perfectly still, his awareness razor sharp. Younger monks would watch him with awe, wondering how he achieved such perfect stillness. But one morning, Rinzan sat down to meditate and found that he could not do it. His mind wandered, his body fidgeted. His awareness, once so sharp, felt dull and scattered. He tried harder, applying all the techniques he had learned over decades of practice. But the harder he tried, the worse it became. Days passed, then weeks, and still he could not meditate the way he once had. He felt as though he had lost something essential, something that had defined him for half a century. One evening he approached the abbot and confessed his struggle. "Master," he said, "I have forgotten how to meditate. After all these years, I have lost the ability. The abbot smiled gently. You have not lost anything, he said. You have simply stopped trying to be something other than what you are. Rinzin looked confused. But meditation is what I do, it is who I am. Without it, I am nothing. The abbot shook his head. Meditation is not something you do, he said. It is what you are. You do not need to achieve it or maintain it. You only need to stop interfering with it. He paused, then added, For 50 years, you meditated, and it was beautiful. But now, life is teaching you a deeper lesson. That you are not the meditator. You are not the one who achieves stillness. You are the stillness itself. Rinzin sat with these words for many days, and slowly he stopped trying to meditate in the old way. He stopped measuring his practice, stopped judging himself, stopped striving for the perfect state. He simply sat, and in that simple sitting, without agenda or expectation, he discovered something he had missed for 50 years. True meditation is not an achievement. It is a recognition that you are already what you seek. That stillness is not something you create. It is what remains when you stop creating. From that day on, Rinzin's practice changed. He no longer sat to become still. He sat because he was stillness, resting in its own nature. And paradoxically, his meditation deepened beyond anything he had experienced in his 50 years of striving, because he had finally learned the secret. You cannot become what you already are. You can only stop pretending to be something else. Breathe. Let this teaching penetrate deep into your being. You are not trying to achieve peace. You are not working toward enlightenment. You are already there. You have always been there. The only thing separating you from that recognition is the belief that you need to do something, to be something, to achieve something first. But you do not. You are already whole. You are already awake. You are already free. Inhale slowly. Exhale completely. Feel the way peace is not something you gain through effort. It is what remains when effort ceases. Let your body relax totally. Let your mind release its grip. You do not need to meditate correctly. You do not need to do this right. You simply need to be exactly as you are in this exact moment. And that is enough. That has always been enough. That will always be enough. In the tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, there is a practice called Dzogchen, the Great Perfection. It is based on a radical teaching that you are already enlightened, already perfect, already complete. There is nothing to do, nothing to achieve, nothing to become. The practice is simply to rest in the recognition of your true nature. Not to create it, not to build it, but to recognize what has always been there. This is perhaps the most difficult teaching to accept, because we are so conditioned to believe that we are broken, incomplete, lacking. We believe that we need to fix ourselves, improve ourselves, transform ourselves. But Dzogchen says, you are already the Buddha. You have always been the Buddha. You have simply forgotten, covered over by layers of conditioning, by years of believing you are something less than what you are. The practice is not to become the Buddha, but to stop pretending to be something else, to remove the layers one by one until what remains is your original nature, pure, luminous, free. Breathe. eyes and for a moment entertain the possibility that this teaching is true, that you are not broken, that you do not need to be fixed, that beneath all the confusion, all the pain, all the struggling, there is something unutterably precious, whole, and complete. What if you are already enlightened and you just do not recognize it? What if peace is not something you achieve, but something you uncover by releasing everything that is not peace? What if freedom is your natural state and bondage is only a story you have been telling yourself? Inhale slowly, exhale fully. Let that possibility rest in your heart, not as a concept to understand, but as a felt sense, a remembering. You are whole. You have always been whole, and nothing you do or fail to do can change that fundamental truth. Let your body grow heavier. Let your mind grow quieter. You are resting not in what you might become, but in what you have always been, and that is liberation itself. There is a famous koan in Zen, "Show me your original face, the face you had before your parents were born." It is not a riddle to be solved with the intellect. It is an invitation to look beyond the conditioned self, beyond the personality you have constructed, beyond the story you tell about who you are. Who were you before you learned your name? Before you developed an identity, a history, a sense of being a separate self? That is your original face. And it is still here, beneath everything, unchanged and unchanging. The personality may shift, the body may age, the circumstances may change, but the original face remains. It is the awareness that has been witnessing everything since the beginning. It has no name, no form, no story. It is simply here, simply present, simply awake. And when you rest in it, you are resting in your true home. Breathe. Can you feel it? Beneath the thoughts, beneath the feelings, beneath the sense of being this particular person, there is a presence, a silent, spacious, infinite presence. That is your original face. That is what you truly are, and it has been waiting for you to recognize it, to return to it, to rest in it. Not as something new, but as something ancient, as old as existence itself and yet eternally fresh, eternally now. Let your body soften completely. Let your mind dissolve into that presence. You are not the story. You are not the thinker. You are not the doer. You are the awareness in which all of that appears and disappears. And that awareness is your original face, your true nature, your deepest home. Rest there. Rest in that recognition. And know that you have never left. The lantern in the storm. Long ago, in a coastal village, there lived a lighthouse keeper named Hero. His job was simple, to keep the lantern burning through the night so that ships at sea would not crash on the rocks. Every evening, as the sun set, he would climb the spiral stairs to the top of the lighthouse and light the lantern. And every morning, as the sun rose, he would extinguish it. For 30 years, he did this without fail. One autumn, a terrible typhoon approached the coast. The winds were so strong that they tore roofs from houses and uprooted ancient trees. The rain fell in torrents, and the sea rose to heights no one had seen before. The villagers begged Hero to come down from the lighthouse and seek shelter with them. The lighthouse will be destroyed, they said. The lantern will be extinguished. There is no point in staying. But Hero refused. As long as I can keep the light burning, he said, I will stay. He climbed to the top of the lighthouse and lit the lantern, as he always did. The storm raged through the night, and the lighthouse shook with every gust of wind. The waves crashed against its base, and the rain pounded its walls. Several times the wind threatened to extinguish the flame, and each time Hero shielded it with his body, protecting it with everything he had. He did not think about himself, did not think about the danger. He thought only of the ships at sea, of the sailors who might be navigating these treacherous waters. And the light burned on. By morning, the storm had passed. The lighthouse still stood, battered but unbroken, and the lantern still burned. The villagers emerged from their homes and saw Hero descending the stairs, exhausted but calm. They gathered around him, amazed that he had survived. "Why did you risk your life for a light?" one of them asked. Hero looked at them with tired but clear eyes. "Because in the darkness, even a small light can save lives," he said. "And we are all lighthouse keepers in our own way. We all carry a light that others need. No matter how strong the storm, no matter how dark the night, our task is the same, to keep the light burning." The villagers understood. They realized that Hero was not just talking about the lantern in the lighthouse. He was talking about the light within each of us, the light of awareness, of compassion, of presence. Life will bring storms, loss, pain, fear, uncertainty. And in those storms, it is easy to let the light go out, to close down, to give up. But the practice is to keep the light burning, no matter what. Not for our own sake, but for the sake of all beings who are lost in the darkness. Breathe deeply. You are a lighthouse keeper. Within you burns a light, the light of your own awareness, your own presence, your own capacity for compassion. And no matter what storms rage in your life, no matter how dark the night becomes, your task is to keep that light burning. Not because it is easy, not because you feel like it, but because it matters, because someone, somewhere, needs the light you carry. Even if you cannot see them, even if you never meet them, your light matters. Inhale slowly, exhale completely. Feel that light within you now, not as a metaphor, but as a living presence. It is the awareness that has been with you all along, steady and unchanging. It is the compassion that arises when you see suffering. It is the love that exists beneath all fear. That light cannot be extinguished by any storm. It can only be forgotten, covered over, ignored. But it is always there, waiting to be remembered. Let your body relax. Let your heart open. You are the lighthouse. You are the keeper of the light. And your presence in this world, exactly as you are, is needed. Not someday, when you are better, stronger, more enlightened, but now, right now. Your light is enough. You are enough. And the darkness has no power over the light you carry. As we move deeper into the night, the teachings become simpler, more direct, more immediate. There is nothing left to explain, nothing left to understand. There is only presence, only awareness, only this. Let us rest here for a while, in the pure simplicity of being. Breathe. Notice the breath moving in and out. You do not need to control it, do not need to make it special. Simply notice it the way you would notice a bird flying past your window. There it is, the breath, arising and passing, natural and effortless. Now notice the space in which the breath appears, the vast, silent space of your awareness. That space is not empty, it is alive, vibrant, full of presence, and it is always here, always accessible, always at peace. The breath comes and goes, thoughts come and go, sensations come and go, but the space remains, unchanging, unwavering, eternal. That space is your true home, not the body, which is temporary, not the mind, which is constantly changing, but the awareness itself, the witness, the presence, the silent knowing. Rest in that space now, not as something you do, but as something you recognize. You are not creating this space, you are discovering it. It has been here all along, holding everything, including you. Let your body grow heavier. Let your thoughts fade away. There is only this vast, open, loving space, and you are it. You have always been it, and you will always be it. In the Heart Sutra, one of the most important texts in Buddhism, there is a famous line, "Form is emptiness, emptiness is form." It sounds paradoxical, even nonsensical. How can form be emptiness? How can emptiness be form? But it is pointing to a profound truth, that what we perceive as solid, separate things are actually processes, patterns, temporary arrangements of energy. There is no solid you that exists independent of everything else. You are a flowing process, constantly changing, constantly interdependent with all of life. And that process, that flowing, changing, interdependent nature is what is meant by emptiness. Not that you do not exist, but that you do not exist in the way you think you do. You are not a separate self cut off from the world. You are an expression of the world itself, a wave on the ocean, a note in the symphony. And when you see this clearly, when you really understand it in your bones, something fundamental shifts. The fear of death softens because you realize that what you truly are cannot die. The loneliness dissolves because you understand that you are never separate. The grasping releases because you see that trying to hold on to anything is like trying to hold on to the wind. Everything is already flowing, everything is already changing, and you are part of that flow, that change, that eternal dance. Breathe. And feel the way you are, not a static thing, but a living process. Every breath brings new molecules into your body. Every exhale releases them back into the world. You are constantly exchanging atoms with the trees, the ocean, the sky. You are not separate from any of it. You are all of it, appearing in this particular form, for this particular moment. Let that truth settle in your body. Let it dissolve the boundaries you have believed in. You are not alone. You have never been alone. You are the universe, experiencing itself through these eyes, this breath, this life. And when you truly know that, peace is inevitable, because you realize you are not fighting against life, you are life itself. There is a teaching in the Taoist tradition about the uncarved block, pu in Chinese. It refers to the original natural state of being before it is shaped by conditioning, by society, by the need to be someone. A block of wood, before it is carved, contains infinite potential. It could become a bowl, a sculpture, a piece of furniture, anything. But once it is carved, its potential narrows. It becomes one thing, and in becoming that thing, it loses the possibility of being everything else. We are like that block of wood. We are born as pure potential, open, unformed, free. But over time, we are carved by our parents, by our culture, by our experiences. We are told who we should be, how we should act, what we should want. And slowly we take on a shape, a form, an identity. We become someone. And in becoming someone, we forget that we are also everyone. That beneath the carved identity, the uncarved block still exists. The practice is to return to that original nature, to remember what you were before you were told who to be, not to destroy the identity you have built, but to hold it lightly, to recognize it as just one possibility among infinite possibilities, to know that you are not just this particular form, but the formless potential from which all forms arise. Breathe. Who are you really, beneath all the roles, all the labels, all the identities? Beneath mother or father, employee or boss, success or failure, who are you? Can you touch that original nature, that uncarved block, that pure potential? It is not something you have to create. It is already there, beneath everything, waiting to be remembered. Inhale slowly. Exhale completely. Let go of the need to be someone. Let go of the carved form just for this moment, and rest in the uncarved block, the pure, open, limitless being that you are. You are not defined by your past. You are not limited by your story. You are pure potential, always becoming, always free. Let your body soften. Let your mind open. You are the uncarved block, and you contain everything. The seamstress and the thread. In a quiet town, there lived a seamstress named Yuki, who was known for her exquisite embroidery. People came from far away to commission her work, delicate flowers, intricate patterns, scenes from nature so lifelike they seemed to breathe. But what no one knew was that Yuki had lost her eyesight years before. A slow illness had stolen her vision, and she could no longer see the threads, the fabric, the patterns she created. Yet her work had only become more beautiful. When asked how she could create such intricate designs without seeing, Yuki smiled. "I do not need to see with my eyes," she said. "I see with my hands, with my heart." When I was young and could see, I was always worried about mistakes. I would check my work constantly, comparing it to an image in my mind. But now I cannot see the result. I can only feel the thread, the fabric, the movement of the needle. And in that feeling, there is a freedom. I am not making something. I am letting something come through me. One day, a young woman came to Yuki and asked to be her apprentice. "I want to learn how you create such beauty," the young woman said. Yuki agreed, and for many months, she taught the young woman the techniques of embroidery. But the young woman struggled. No matter how carefully she worked, her stitches were uneven, her patterns stiff. She grew frustrated. "I'm trying so hard," she said to Yuki, "but I cannot make it beautiful like yours." Yuki smiled gently. "You are trying too hard," she said. "You are so focused on the result that you have forgotten the process." "Here," she said, placing a cloth in the young woman's hands. "Close your eyes and make 10 stitches without looking." The young woman hesitated but obeyed. She closed her eyes and began to sew, feeling the needle, the thread, the fabric. And as she worked, something shifted. She stopped thinking about how it should look and simply felt each stitch, each movement. When she opened her eyes and looked at her work, she was surprised. The stitches were not perfect, but they carried a life, a naturalness she had not achieved before. "You see," Yuki said, "beauty does not come from control, it comes from surrender. When you stop trying to make something perfect and simply allow it to be, it becomes beautiful in its own way." The young woman continued her apprenticeship, and over time her work transformed. Not because she became more skilled, but because she learned to let go of control and trust the process. She learned that true mastery is not about dominating the material, but about dancing with it. And in that dance, something emerges that could never have been planned or forced. Something alive, authentic, beautiful. Breathe, let Yuki's teaching settle in your heart. You too are trying to create something, maybe a life, maybe a career, maybe a relationship, maybe just a sense of peace. And perhaps you are trying too hard, forcing it, controlling it, comparing it to an image in your mind. But what if you could release that control? What if you could close your eyes, so to speak, and simply feel your way forward, trusting the process, allowing life to move through you, rather than trying to make it conform to your will? Inhale slowly, exhale completely. Let go of the image of how things should be. Let go of the need to make everything perfect, and instead, simply be present with what is, feeling each moment, each breath, each experience as it arises. In that presence, something beautiful emerges, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. Let your body relax. Let your mind soften. You do not need to see the whole picture. You do not need to have it all figured out. You simply need to take the next stitch, the next breath, the next step, with presence, with care, with trust. And the pattern will emerge on its own, more beautiful than anything you could have planned. As the night grows deeper and the silence more profound, we rest in the pure simplicity of being. There is nothing left to teach, nothing left to learn. There is only this vast, open presence and the gentle invitation to rest within it. Breathe. The breath is so simple, and yet it contains everything. It is the bridge between body and mind, between doing and being, between life and death. When you were born, you took your first breath. When you die, you will take your last. And between those two breaths is your entire life, a series of inhalations and exhalations, each one a complete cycle, each one a small death and rebirth. Nothing is more ordinary than breath, and nothing is more sacred. It is happening now, without your conscious effort, connecting you to every living being on this planet. Every tree, every animal, every person. We are all breathing, all sharing the same air, all participating in this great exchange. When you breathe in, you take in molecules that have been breathed by countless others before you. When you breathe out, you release molecules that will be breathed by countless others after you. You are not separate. You are part of an infinite web of life, all breathing together, all connected. Let your breath be your anchor. Let it remind you again and again that you are here, you are alive, you are part of something vast and beautiful. Inhale slowly, feeling the breath fill your body. Exhale completely, feeling it release back into the world. This is the practice. This is the teaching. This is the peace. Nothing more is needed. The ancient masters spoke of 3 poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. These are the root causes of suffering, the forces that keep us trapped in cycles of pain. Greed is the endless wanting, the belief that we need more to be happy. Hatred is the pushing away, the resistance to what is. And delusion is the fundamental misunderstanding of our nature, the belief that we are separate, limited, incomplete. The antidotes are simple but profound: generosity, compassion, and wisdom. Generosity is the willingness to give, to share, to release our tight grip on what we have. Compassion is the capacity to meet suffering, our own and others, with an open heart. And wisdom is the recognition of our true nature, that we are already whole, already connected, already free. Tonight, as you rest here, you are practicing these antidotes. You are being generous with yourself, giving yourself permission to rest, to be imperfect, to simply be. You are being compassionate, meeting whatever arises with gentleness rather than judgment. And you are cultivating wisdom, recognizing that peace is not something you achieve, but something you uncover by releasing what obscures it. Breathe. With each inhale, receive the gifts that are already here: life, breath, awareness. With each exhale, release the poisons, the wanting, the resistance, the delusion. Let this breath be a complete practice, receiving and releasing, opening and letting go. There is nothing more to do. You are already doing it. You are already practicing. You are already awake. As we approach the true end of our journey together, let us rest in the words of the great Master Dogen, who said, "To study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by all things." This is the progression of the spiritual path, distilled into its essence. First, we study ourselves. We look inward, we meditate, we examine our thoughts and feelings. Then, through that study, we begin to see that the self we thought we were is not as solid as we believed. It is a construct, a story, a pattern, not a thing. And as that realization deepens, we forget the self, not through suppression or denial, but through direct recognition that there is no separate self to defend or protect. And in that forgetting, we are enlightened by all things. We see that we are not separate from the world, but intimately woven into it, part of the great unfolding, never alone, never apart. This is the ultimate teaching. Not that you must destroy yourself, but that you must recognize what you always already are. Not separate, not limited, not incomplete, but whole, free, and infinitely connected. Breathe and rest in that recognition. You do not need to understand it with your mind, just feel it in your body, in your breath, in your being. You are not this small, separate self. You are the vastness itself, temporarily taking this form, experiencing life through these eyes. And when you know that, really know it, not just intellectually, but in your bones, everything changes. Fear softens, love deepens, and peace becomes not something you strive for, but something you rest in, naturally and effortlessly. Let your body grow heavier. Let your mind dissolve into silence. You are home. You have always been home, and there is nowhere else to go. The night is deep now, deeper than thought, deeper than word, and we rest here in the silent heart of being, where all teaching ends and only presence remains. Breathe. Let the breath be soft, effortless, natural. There is no one here to do anything, no one to become, no one to save. Only this vast, open, loving awareness holding everything, including you. Rest in that awareness. Let it hold you the way the ocean holds a wave. You cannot fall out of it. You cannot be separate from it. You are it, and it is you. And in that recognition, all seeking ends. All striving ceases, and what remains is simply this: peace, presence, wholeness, forever, now, always. The candle burns low, the flame flickers one final time, then steadies. Outside, the first light of dawn begins to touch the horizon, though you do not need to see it to know it is there. The night has held you. The teachings have washed over you. And now, as you rest in this deep, profound silence, you are exactly where you need to be. Nowhere else, no one else, nothing else, only this, only now, only breath. And in that simplicity, everything is complete. But before we part, let us sit together for a few more moments in this sacred silence. There is one more story, one more teaching, one more invitation to rest even more deeply. The last lesson. There was once a teacher who had trained hundreds of students over a lifetime of teaching. She had shared every sutra, every meditation technique, every insight she had gained through decades of practice. Now, in her final days, her students gathered around her bedside, hoping to receive one last teaching. "Master," they said, "you have taught us so much, but surely there is one final wisdom you can share before you leave us." The old teacher looked at them with eyes full of love and compassion. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. She did this 3 times, opening her mouth, pausing, then closing it without uttering a word. The students waited, confused, wondering what this meant. Finally, one student understood. "The teaching cannot be spoken," he said softly. "It can only be lived." The teacher smiled, and that smile was her final teaching. She closed her eyes and, within a few breaths, she was gone. The students sat in silence, feeling the weight of that final lesson. She had spent her life teaching them techniques, concepts, philosophies, but in the end, she showed them that none of it mattered as much as simple presence. That the deepest truth cannot be transmitted through words. It can only be recognized in silence, in the space between thoughts, in the simple act of being fully present with what is. The students carried that teaching with them for the rest of their lives, and whenever they caught themselves getting lost in concepts, in techniques, in the endless, seeking for answers, they would remember their teacher's silence, and they would return to what she had pointed to all along, this moment, exactly as it is, complete and perfect in its imperfection. Breathe. This is the final teaching, the one that contains all others. Be here, now, fully. Not tomorrow, when things are better. Not yesterday, when things were different. But here, in this moment, with this breath, exactly as you are. You do not need more knowledge. You do not need more technique. You do not need more time. You need only to wake up to what is already here, what has always been here. And that waking up is not a dramatic event, not a lightning bolt of enlightenment. It is the simple, quiet recognition that you are already home, that you have always been home, that there is nowhere else to go, nothing else to seek, no one else to become. Inhale slowly, feeling the breath fill your body completely. Exhale fully, releasing everything you have been holding. Let this breath be your practice. Let this moment be your teacher. Let this silence be your guide. And know that everything you have ever needed to know is already here, within you, waiting to be recognized. In the Zen tradition, there is a concept called original enlightenment. The idea that enlightenment is not something you achieve, but something you have never lost. You were born enlightened, whole, complete. And then, through conditioning and socialization, you forgot. You learned to believe you were separate, limited, incomplete. You learned to fear death, to chase pleasure, to avoid pain. You learned to identify with the thoughts in your mind, the emotions in your heart, the sensations in your body. And in that learning, you covered over your original nature the way clouds cover the sun. But the sun never stops shining. It is always there behind the clouds, radiating light and warmth. And your original nature is the same, always present, always whole, never diminished by the clouds of confusion, fear, or doubt. The practice is not to create enlightenment, but to remove the clouds, to see through the conditioning, the beliefs, the stories that tell you who you are, and to recognize what has been there all along, your original face, your true nature, your deepest self. Breathe deeply. Feel the way this truth resonates in your bones, even if your mind cannot fully grasp it. You are not broken. You have never been broken. You have only forgotten what you are, and tonight you are remembering. Not as a concept, not as an idea, but as a felt sense, a recognition, a coming home. Let your body soften completely. Let your mind dissolve into the vastness. You are the sun behind the clouds. You are the silence beneath the noise. You are the peace that remains when all else has passed. And nothing, no storm, no darkness, no confusion, can ever diminish what you truly are. As we rest here in these final moments together, I want to share with you one more practice. The practice of gratitude. Not gratitude for what you have achieved or what you possess or what has gone right, but gratitude for simply being, for the sheer gift of existence itself. You did not ask to be born. You did not earn your life. It was given to you freely, without condition. And every breath since that first one has been a gift, an invitation to participate in this extraordinary unfolding called life. Take a moment now to feel that gratitude, not as a thought, but as a feeling in your chest, a warmth in your heart. Gratitude for this breath, gratitude for this moment, gratitude for the awareness that allows you to experience it all. Gratitude for the challenges that have shaped you. Gratitude for the joys that have lifted you. Gratitude for the people who have loved you. Gratitude for the pain that has taught you. Gratitude for the opportunity to rest here now in this peaceful silence. Let that gratitude wash over you like warm rain. Let it soften any remaining hardness in your heart. Let it dissolve any lingering resentment, any bitterness, any sense that life has been unfair. Life has simply been life, sometimes beautiful, sometimes painful, always teaching. And you have been here for all of it, witnessing it, experiencing it, growing through it. That is worthy of gratitude. You are worthy of gratitude. Breathe in gratitude. Breathe out peace. Let this be your final practice tonight, resting in thankfulness for the simple fact of being. The old masters used to say, after enlightenment, the laundry, meaning that awakening does not transport you to some transcendent realm where you no longer have to deal with ordinary life. You still wash dishes, you still do laundry, you still experience frustration, fatigue, and all the usual human experiences, but you relate to them differently. You are no longer identified with them, no longer believing they define who you are. You meet them with presence, with acceptance, with a light touch. And in that meeting, even the most mundane tasks become sacred, because you are no longer doing them to get somewhere else. You are doing them as an expression of being fully here. The dishes become a meditation. The laundry becomes a practice. And life, in all its ordinary glory, becomes the path itself. So when you wake tomorrow and return to your daily life, remember this. You do not need to be in some special state to be awake. You do not need to be on a meditation cushion or in a quiet temple. You can be fully present while washing dishes, while driving to work, while talking to a friend. Every moment is an opportunity to practice. Every breath is an invitation to return home. And the peace you have touched tonight is not something that exists only in special circumstances. It is always available, always accessible, always here, waiting for you to remember, to recognize, to rest. Breathe. Let that knowing settle deep within you. You are taking this peace with you when you leave this meditation. It is not separate from you. It is what you are. And no matter what tomorrow brings, no matter what challenges arise, you can always return to this: breath, presence, peace. In the Heart Sutra, after exploring the nature of emptiness, the Buddha offers a mantra, a sacred phrase that encapsulates the entire teaching. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha. It means gone, gone, gone beyond, gone completely beyond, awakening. It is celebrating the letting go of everything, every concept, every belief, every attachment. Gone is the idea that you are separate. Gone is the fear of death. Gone is the grasping for permanence. Gone completely beyond the illusion of a separate self. And what remains when all of that has been released? Awakening. Not as something new, but as the recognition of what has always been. Tonight, you have practiced this going beyond. You have let go again and again of the thoughts that bind you, the fears that limit you, the stories that define you. And in that releasing, you have touched something timeless, something free, something utterly at peace. That is your true nature. That is what you are when you stop trying to be anything. And it is always here, always available, always waiting for you to stop and recognize it. Breathe deeply one more time. Feel the way this entire journey has been circular. You have not gone anywhere, but you have returned home. You are the same person you were when we began, and yet something has shifted, not in what you are, but in your recognition of what you are. You are awake. You have always been awake. You have simply been dreaming that you were asleep. And now, in this quiet moment, you remember. As the first birds begin to sing outside your window, as the night begins to soften into dawn, we come to the true end of our time together. But it is not really an ending, because the teaching continues in your life, in your breath, in every moment you choose to be present. You are not leaving this meditation. You are taking it with you, woven into your being. And whenever you need to return, whenever the world feels too heavy or the mind too loud, you can come back here. Not to this recording, though you are always welcome to listen again, but to this place within yourself, this silence, this peace, this home. It has always been there. It will always be there. And you know the way back now. One breath at a time, one moment at a time, one gentle return to presence at a time. That is the practice. That is the teaching. That is the path. And you are walking it beautifully, exactly as you are. Rest now, dear one. Let the night hold you one final time. Let the silence wrap around you like the softest blanket. Let the breath carry you into the deepest, most peaceful sleep. You have done all you need to do. You have learned all you need to learn. You have arrived at all you need to arrive at. And now, you can simply rest. Rest in the knowing that you are safe. Rest in the knowing that you are loved. Rest in the knowing that you are whole. And when you wake, you will carry this peace with you, not as something fragile that must be protected, but as something unshakable that lives within you. You are the peace. You have always been the peace, and nothing can take that from you. The candle flickers one last time, then burns steady and bright. Outside, the world turns toward morning, but here in this eternal now, there is only this: breath, presence, peace, forever, always, now. Sleep well, beloved traveler. You have found your way home, and home will always be here waiting for you in the silence of your own being. In the morning, when you wake, you may not remember every story, every teaching, every word spoken here tonight. And that is perfectly fine, because the teachings were never meant to be remembered by the mind. They were meant to be absorbed by the body, by the heart, by the deepest part of your being. Like rain soaking into dry earth, the wisdom has seeped into you, nourishing roots you did not even know you had. You may not remember the ferryman or the potter or the monk who forgot how to meditate, but somewhere within you, their lessons have taken hold. They have become part of you, woven into the fabric of your consciousness. And when you need them, when life presents a challenge, when fear arises, when you forget who you are, they will surface, not as memories, but as intuitions, as gentle knowings, as a quiet voice reminding you to breathe, to be present, to trust. This is how wisdom works. It does not announce itself loudly. It whispers softly in the moments between thoughts, and if you listen closely, you will hear it. You will always hear it, because it is not separate from you. It is you, speaking to yourself, guiding yourself home. So rest now, knowing that even in sleep, the teachings continue to work within you, dissolving what no longer serves, strengthening what is true, and gently reminding you of the peace that you are. Sleep deeply, sleep peacefully, and when you wake, may you carry this stillness with you into the new day, like dew clinging to morning grass, quiet, pure and impossibly beautiful.